Howdy partners and fellow knights of the KBH. This is Ian Clark. We are discussing today the necessity of an eclectic outlook for any spiritual man in the modern era. The reason why it is very necessary to be an east-west combination in these days is because each religion, Christianity, and Buddhism, Hinduism, has adapted to society and compromised itself for the Kali Yuga. For example, the Buddhist religion has adapted itself to the autocratic society of China and also in Japan by overtly stating that the practitioners should not be involved in justice work. Technically, in Buddhism, there is a Weituo Pusa that is specifically worshipped to hope for justice, and definitely in Hinduism, there was a strong emphasis on justice, and there were also political movements attached to Buddhism and meditation programs, which got very popular in China and did in fact threaten the government. So any Buddhism or Hinduism that survives today is surviving under the government, and in practical use they very forcefully say don't get involved in justice work. Now, this is not something we should study from Buddhism. It is more in the social realm and not in the actual scripture either. Buddhism does not emphasize enough the necessity of justice work. Christianity does not emphasize enough the inner work that needs to be done. It doesn't emphasize enough in the Bible the necessity of meditation practice, and it doesn't emphasize enough that we should not be eating meat, or drinking alcohol, or smoking, etc. These are questions of personal discipline. It's almost the opposite of Buddhism in that it emphasizes justice work first. It uses the symbol of the cross to symbolize that Jesus Christ was not afraid of the consequences of opposing the establishment and cleaning up the church and cleaning up society, and that he was willing to take whatever consequence was necessary. So Jesus Christ stands for courage, and he stands for making radical social changes. Actually, the stories of Lord Buddha and Jesus Christ are very similar, but because they were adopted by different societies, the popular understanding of these religions has been very skewed. Now, I think for anybody practicing religion in the West today, Buddhism will afford them a great understanding of exactly why we don't want to be eating meat and exactly why we need to be avoiding a lot of these, what a lot of people think are simple pleasures but are actually very harmful sins. An example that I would like to give you concerning the wonderful rounding out you will experience if you study Eastern things is that you can look at our languages. The Western languages are all phonetic, and the Southeast languages are visual, especially Chinese. And they emphasize these things at the expense of the other things. So these phonetic languages, especially our Latin and Romance languages, are very beautiful to listen to, but they just use a plain Latin script that is uninteresting. Whereas the Chinese script is very powerfully interesting, and the sound of Chinese, though, is not popularly understood as being beautiful. So really, when somebody from the West, for example, learns Chinese, their language abilities round out in a very dramatic way. And when a religious practitioner from the West comes to the East, they see a lot of problems here, but also they can fix all of their own problems in their own religious practice by picking up on the really strong positives here that happen to be totally different from the strong positives there. So in conclusion, the Buddhists need to learn more about justice and courage, and the Christians need to learn more about self-reflection, self-discipline, and meditation. Well, anyway, I hope that for all brothers, we study a lot of new things and that we round ourselves out, that we have an open, though very critical mind. And that is all we have to say. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and be well. Om.